Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to my channel. My name is JC, an intuitive health and mental mastery coach, and today we will be going over 3 simple hacks to accelerate your shadow work so you can start becoming fully yourself. You happen to be one of the 70% of people who avoid shadow work like the plague, and in the process hinder your journey on becoming a fully empowered version of yourself, and this video is for you. In this video, we will be taking a deep dive into how you can fast-track your shadow work to be on your way to fully embody your power. But first, if you can take a moment to like and subscribe, thank you very much, and let's go. Some of you may already know this, but just in case you don't, what exactly is shadow work? Well, in a nutshell, it's exploring and eventually accepting your quote-unquote dark side. It involves ripping out those little parts of yourself that you shoved so deep inside they become a pariah in your everyday life. This results in you building blocks that compound over the years and in time prohibit your ability to succeed in the things that you know deep down are your truest self. Once these blocks are developed, it becomes very difficult for you to move past them without very intense head-on collisions with the issues themselves, and this can be extremely uncomfortable for people as it can bring up lots of dark feelings and things that they do not like about themselves. It may even trigger their past traumas, which can make them slowly slip back into a place where they're comfortable. Also, for many of us, we don't want things to change. As much as we aren't happy with where we are, our growth, relationships, our job, we fear what we are not comfortable with more than just staying in the tried and true version of ourselves that, even though it's unsatisfying, at least it's predictable, which gives us a false sense of safety and belonging. Another reason I find that people shy away from this work is because in many cases, society views anything that is not super positive as something bad or negative or something that makes you lesser than other people. And it teaches you from a very young age that the only feelings that are acceptable are the ones being super happy and put together and never having problems and, taking lots of Instagram photos. They really push aside the deeper internal feelings such as depression, sadness, and hopelessness, and any similarly aligned feelings. They make you feel really uncomfortable and like it's something that should not be shared. So it's not unlikely that even if you're really pumped and want to start this shadow work that you wouldn't know where to start, since resources have only just begun popping up in recent years. But you no longer have to worry about scouring the internet or trying to find out what to do, because these hacks right here will help you to dive into the root causes and get rid of the blocks so you can start living your best life. Number 1, reviewing your childhood. Take a look back at your childhood overall. What is the immediate feeling you get about it? What comes up for you? Once you have those feelings kind of in mind, you can dig a little bit deeper. For example, I had many blocks for years around speaking my mind and standing up for my own thoughts and beliefs. This created a huge block for me around setting boundaries and pretty much wreaked havoc on the majority of my early adulthood. But when I was able to take a step back and examine why I was allowing these things to happen, I found in my childhood, I never felt like I had a safe place. I was always the odd one out, and I could never speak up for myself or anyone that I cared about. But once I knew that this block existed, it was easier to kind of pinpoint the exact moment, or moments rather, that my brain first created that response, which is what I was feeding from. And once you can pinpoint that first time that you felt the feeling, and I wouldn't be worried about if it's not the exact moment, because as long as you have a general idea, it'll still work the same way. And then you can move on to number 2, which is writing out the pain. Write down what happened from your inner child's perspective, and it will really give you a clear view of what you felt then and what you may be still carrying with you now. Because it doesn't really matter if your adult self is able to understand certain things and that they weren't really as they seemed when you were a child. It doesn't mean that your inner child, who grew up as a part of you and is the foundation you stand on, understands everything. So writing everything out and making sure that once you reach the conclusion of the writing, that you're really taking time to acknowledge the feeling or feelings that were instilled upon you at that point in time. And this doesn't have to be super complicated. You don't have to go super deep unless the details really feel like it's necessary and you really feel like that you need to express them in that way. But once you start writing, feelings generally tend to kind of flow out because these are negatively compounding things that have been wanting to be released for so long that once you tap into them, they tend to kind of just flow naturally. Number 3, now you're going to rewrite that past. And it sounds a little complicated, but it's not actually that hard. You don't have to do any interdimensional space-time travel or anything like that. All it takes is a little imagination. You're going to go into whatever that moment was that you first felt that negative energy and that it negatively imposed that sense on your childhood self. And imagine in that moment, your adult self is standing next to you as a child. And at first, you're just going to kind of observe and watch yourself go through the motions of what happened and sense the feeling. Then slowly you're going to imagine that everything besides you and your child self has disappeared from the scene entirely. And that they look up and they see you and they recognize who you are. And from there, you'll be able to tell them what you know now and let them know that everything will be okay and that they are always seen and valued. If you want to do more, you can. You can go into whatever you know you needed to hear or see or feel at that moment. And imagine you are actually being that in the moment for your inner child. You may need to revisit the scene a few times just to make sure that it's truly sunk in, and don't be worried if it doesn't fix everything right away. You spent years feeling the same way and hiding behind those blocks, and it's become such a part of you that it can take some time to kind of let go of. But using these methods, they're very straightforward, but in a nurturing way. It gives yourself that closure to let your inner self know what your outer self knows, that everything is and always will be safe and that you will always be loved. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you found these tips helpful and if you would like to see more. And as always, much love and abundance.